Good morning. I would like to welcome and thank all of you for being here today for this important dedication. Thank you, General Gronsky, Pastor Miller, Commissioner Priest, our honor guard, our locally elected officials from Millersburg Borough and Upper Paxton Township, friends, and most importantly, the family of Private Warren Snyder. I now invite Pastor John Miller from Trinity United Church of Christ in Millersburg, which was Private Snyder's church, to the podium to offer our invocation.
If you are able, would you please stand? Let us remember silently before God and commend to his sure keeping those who have died for their country in war and in peace, those whom we knew and those whose memory we treasure, and all who lived and died in the service of their country and mankind. Eternal God, the source and giver of life, the destiny toward whom all life flows, we have gathered in this place to remember Warren Snyder. Sanctify every good memory and cut short every vain attempt to treat his death lightly. In his death, give us the honesty to appreciate him simply for who he was among us. In the awful waste of death, we are dismayed at how transient and fleeting life is. Give us the grace to give to him the integrity of his death. Comfort those who knew him well and mourn his loss. Bring peace to the troubled spirits of all those who have the courage to face their own death. Let his death be a bond between us, as all of us are never far from death. Speak comfortingly to us that we need never fear the terror of death nor flee from the rare privilege of life. In the memory of Warren Snyder, we dedicate the bridge which will bear his name as a memorial to his life, one of many who were willing to answer the call of their nation in the service to others. Almighty God, as we travel across this bridge, help us to remember that freedom does not automatically perpetuate itself, that we have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and pray for it. Let us be ever mindful that freedom needs our attention and our cooperation. Be with us now as we go about our daily lives, and let us never to forget to reflect your loving kindness on all those whom we need. Amen. Would you please remain standing for the posting of the colors?
Do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I am humbled to be able to stand before you as we honor a local hero who died in service to our country. Almost 2 years ago, Bruce Miller walked into the district office in Elizabethville with a folder and a request. He asked me if it would be possible to start the process of naming the bridge on Route 147 into Millersburg after his late father-in-law, whom he never met, Private Warren Snyder. Bruce told me that Warren Snyder was a truck driver from Millersburg who had a wife, Margaret, and 2 young daughters, Lois and Janet. Warren was drafted into the U.S. Army in May of 1944 and received his basic training at Camp Farron, Texas. He was later transferred to Fort Meade in Maryland, and from there was sent on to foreign duty. Warren went overseas early in November of 1944 and was assigned to a replacement camp. Later, he was assigned to Company G of the 121st Infantry Division. The last time that Warren's family heard from him was a letter he sent to Margaret that was dated November 30, 1944. He was in Germany. We actually have that letter here today. It is over on the remembrance table. Warren was reported missing in action on November 7, 1944, during the Battle of Hürtgen Forest, and was later reported as killed in action on December 19. He was 38 years old. Mrs. Snyder was widowed at the young age of 32. Lois was 13 and Janet was 6 when their father lost his life in service to our nation. After hearing about Warren, I told Bruce absolutely yes. The bridge should be named in memory of his father-in-law. It was then my privilege to introduce House Bill 735, which became Act 71 of 2015, designating the bridge as the Prime Warren Snyder Memorial Bridge, so we will forever be reminded of his ultimate sacrifice. It is now my honor to introduce our next speaker. Major General John Grosky is currently serving as the 37th Commanding General of the 28th Infantry Division, a position which he has held for more than 3 years. He was recently been selected to serve in a key leadership position in the U.S. Army Europe in Wiesbaden, Germany. The Music, Pennsylvania native received his commission in the United States Army in 1978 through the ROTC program at the University of Scranton. Major General Gronsky has had a distinguished career, which includes key leadership assignments with infantry and armored units in Iraq and Europe. He is a graduate of numerous military schools, including the U.S. Army College in Carlisle. His military awards and decorations include the Legion of Merit and Oak Leaf Cluster, Bronze Star, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, and the Republic of Lithuania Medal of Merit. We are so pleased that he can join us today, Major General John Grosky.
Thank you, everyone. Representative Helm, distinguished guests, community leaders, our great veterans from the VFW and the Legion Post, and especially the Longnecker and Miller family. It's truly an honor for me to be with everyone today as we pay tribute to Private Warren Snyder. He made an ultimate sacrifice for his country, and by dedicating the bridge just shortly down the road from here today, I think it's a great honor that we are paying to Private Warren Snyder. You know, after World War I, Calvin Coolidge, as part of his acceptance speech for the Republican vice presidential nomination on July 27, 1920, cautioned the country against abandoning its social contract with its warriors and our veterans. And he said, and it's a famous quote, I'm sure many of you have heard it before, that the nation which forgets its defenders will itself be forgotten. Well, because of the work of Representative Helm and many others from the surrounding area, the sacrifice of Private Snyder will never be forgotten. You know, I want to talk a little bit about the legacy Pennsylvania has. You know, Pennsylvania has a great legacy of service to our nation. Many of Pennsylvania's citizens are serving on active duty, in the reserves, and in the Pennsylvania National Guard. The Pennsylvania National Guard alone has approximately 20,000 of our citizen soldiers and airmen serving in its ranks today. Now, Pennsylvania, with a population of about 12 million citizens, has almost 1 million veterans living within our borders. So we could all be proud of Pennsylvania's long history of military service to our nation. And we could also be very proud of Private Warren Snyder. You know, he came from a family where he really didn't have to enter military service, but he felt it was his duty to. And after entering the Army in May of 1944, Private Snyder was assigned to Golf Company 121st Infantry Division. And he fought with his fellow soldiers in the Hurricane Forest. And the Hurricane Forest is near Aachen, Germany. And I will tell you, I've had the opportunity to go to the Hurricane Forest about 3 times. When I was stationed over in Germany after 9/11, I had the opportunity to go there, and the main reason I wanted to go to the Hurricane Forest was because of the division I was in, the 28th Infantry Division. And I heard what a horrendous place the Hurricane Forest was for our soldiers to fight in. And you know, we had division after division fighting through the Hurricane Forest, starting in September 1944 through December 1944. I think there was a total of about 8 or 9 Army divisions that fought through the hurricane. Over 30,000 casualties, American casualties, because of the horrendous fighting in the hurricane. As a matter of fact, when the 28th Infantry Division fought there, just over a 4-day period, 6,000 casualties. Now, the reason I tell you this is because you have to understand the horrendous situation that Private Snyder found himself in. I'll talk just a little bit about the terrain of the hurricane. Steep ridge lines, tall pine trees. The Germans had, it was part of the Siegfried Line, so the Germans had placed bunkers in the Hurricane Forest prior to the start of World War II. And then when they attacked into France and they occupied France, there was no need for them to occupy those bunkers on the border of Germany. So over the years, thick shrubbery, grass, moss, everything covered these German bunkers. And then when our soldiers liberated France and began to fight into Germany, and they came into the hurricane, it was almost impossible to see the German machine gun nests in these bunkers. I mean, you could be standing about 20 feet away from the bunker. You couldn't see it. They were camouflaged so greatly. And then the Germans used artillery in the Hurricane Forest, and they used airburst rounds. And when the artillery rounds would burst in the air, not only the shrapnel would rain down on the soldiers who fought there, but they would cut into the pine trees. And so the soldiers were not only subject to shrapnel from the artillery shell itself, but also just wooden shrapnel from the pine trees as these shells burst in the air. So Private Snyder found himself in probably one of the worst environments any soldier could ever fight in. And he fought, I know he was only there, I think, 2 days before he was killed. But what a courageous man for making the sacrifice to volunteer to serve in the military and then to find himself in such a situation. So it was in this struggle that Private Snyder bravely served our nation. He gave his, as Abraham Lincoln called, his last full measure of devotion there. But he was like a long line of other Americans who have defended our nation now for well over 200 years. And you know, he didn't serve for the glory, and he certainly didn't serve for the pay, being a private. He really simply served because his country was at war, and he felt that he had to. He understood that the liberty and freedom we Americans are blessed with, he understood that, the freedom and the liberty we have. And he was willing to make a sacrifice so future generations, for his 2 daughters, for example, and future other generations of Americans who he did not even know, could also enjoy these same blessings. And so it is right that we honor the service and sacrifice of Private Warren Snyder by dedicating the bridge in this community. So it's really a privilege for me to be here with you. Again, I want to thank Representative Helm and the other government and community leaders who were responsible for getting this bridge dedicated in Private Snyder's name. May God bless the soul of Warren Snyder. May God bless his family. And may God continue to bless our great country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, General Gronsky. I think it's so special that he could be here today, having been in the same forest. I would now like to share with you a short video that we made about Private Warren Snyder. Since this bill was a surprise to Lois and Janet, we made this video to tell them about Act 71. Please direct your attention to the screen. Would rename a bridge in Dauphin County in the memory of a local war hero. Private Warren Snyder of Millersburg was reported killed in action during the battle of Curtis Arms, December 19, 1944, at the age of 38. He had been reported missing 12 days earlier. Actually, that was the day given to a series of bloody battles near the German-Belgian border between December 19, 1944 and February 10, 1945, making it the longest battle on German soil during World War II, and the longest ever fought in the history of the United States military. It was costly too, with at least 33,000 American casualties. The Germans suffered 28,000 casualties. The Hurricane Forest was a wooded area 50 square miles wide that provided another possible corridor for the Allied push into Germany. According to General Dwight Eisenhower, the enemy had all the advantages and the attacking Americans had to depend almost exclusively upon the infantry weapons because of the thickness of the forest. The Battle of Hurricane Forest was overshadowed by the American victory in the Battle of the Bulge, which took place a few miles to the south. And as a result, little has been written about it. Private Snyder was a truck driver before he entered the Army in May 1944. He received his basic infantry training at Camp Fannin, Texas, and was then transferred to Fort Meade, Maryland, following a furlough with his family in Millersburg. Private Snyder had volunteered for foreign duty and was assigned to Company G of the 121st Infantry. He was sent overseas in early November 1944. The last Private Snyder was heard from was November 30 in a letter to his wife, Margaret. He is reported missing in battle a week later. Private Snyder was survived by his wife and 2 daughters, Lois and Janet, along with his parents and 4 sisters. He is buried in the David's Reformed Cemetery in Killiner, Dauphin County. In addition, his name, along with other veterans, is found on a monument in a cemetery in Millersburg. House Bill 735 would designate the bridge that carries State Route 147 over the Wiconesto Creek in Millersburg as the Private Warren Snyder Memorial Bridge. It's not far from the Snyder family home. By renaming the bridge, we will forever be reminded of the ultimate sacrifice Private Warren Snyder courageously made for his country during World War II's bloodiest battles. If there's anyone here today who would like a copy of that video, just let us know, and we'll be sure that you get one. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dauphin County Commissioner Mike Priest, who has a special proclamation to present to Private Snyder's family, and I also have a special copy of House Bill 735, Act 81 to present. Lois and Janet, will you please come forward?
Good morning, everyone. As the proud father of a 19-year-old United States Marine, it is truly an honor and a privilege to be here today with each and every one of you. And I want to take a moment and thank Representative Sue Helm for her leadership in bringing this day to being in recognition of a true American hero. Without further ado, I'd like to read this proclamation into the record, if I may. We, the Dauphin County Board of Commissioners, are delighted to join State Representative Sue Helm, the family members of a beloved local military hero, and the community at large in designating a bridge over the Wiccanisco Creek in Millersburg as the private Warren Snyder Bridge. Whereas this bridge along Route 147 honors a true American patriot and solidifies an inspiring legacy that endures to this day. Whereas Warren Snyder of Millersburg entered the United States Army in May of 1944. Whereas later that year he was sent overseas and assigned to Company G, 121st Infantry in Germany. On December 7, 1944, he was reported missing in action during the Battle of the Hurtgens Forest. And on December 19, 1944, he was reported as killed in action, giving his life for liberty in a bloody, years-long conflict that tore apart our world. Therefore, we proudly join the 270,000 residents of Dauphin County in saluting a young, courageous soldier who made the ultimate sacrifice for freedom and for the Americans who still live under the cloak of democracy. We thank and honor his supreme sacrifice during the heat of battle in World War II, and in solemn recognition, remembrance, and gratitude thereof, we do hereby proudly proclaim April 7th, 2016 as Private Warren Snyder's Bridge Day in Dauphin County. Sure.
Copy of the bill. Thank you. Go ahead and sit down, then we'll do the retirement colors, and then we'll do the unveiling. We'll now have the retiring of the colors by VFW Post 2835.
Right? Face. 3 colors. Right? Face. Where's the arm?
You may be seated. And now I invite Lois and Janet up for the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to unveil the bridge sign. Just like to thank you all for coming and sharing this special day. We invite you to stay and enjoy lunch, which is being kindly provided by the American Legion. And when you leave town, please look at the signs. I don't know if it stopped raining or not, but all I could think of this morning was the heavens cried in honor of this. So thank you and enjoy lunch.